annual report, we established 3 goals for the first half of 2022. The first 2 are concerning our data analytics program. The goal for both was to review the initial results of the first run, which reflect 2020's data. The first was to develop contractor registration compliance monitoring. All county contractors who do more than $10,000 in business with the county annually are required by county code to register with the Agency of Inspector General unless an exemption applies. This requirement is in place to ensure the county is only doing business with quality and law-abiding contractors. Our agency developed a data analytics program to identify contractors meeting or exceeding that $10,000 threshold that were not registered with our agency. The script pulls financial data from the county's Lawson system and compares it to our internal database containing our registered contractors to identify any gaps, which would indicate that a contractor has failed to register with our agency. The review identified more than 200 contractors who did more than $10,000 in business with the county that were not registered with our agency. After performing outreach, about half of those contractors have either registered or provided proof that they are exempt, and so those exempt contractors will be excluded from future runs, and we are continuing to work through the remaining results. The second goal was to develop conflict of interest monitoring. All county elected officials and employees are required to disclose any potential conflicts of interest, and as a general rule, they cannot do business with the county. The conflict of interest monitoring was developed to look for undisclosed or unlawful relationships between our county employees and the county by pulling contractor spending data and comparing it to our employees' information to identify any overlaps. We have concluded the review and are in the process of looking into the remaining 2 positive results. In addition to developing those 2 monitoring programs, we have also expanded the data analytics program to include accounts payable analytics and also employee payroll analytics, both of which were in the early stages of development at the end of the first half. Accounts payable is looking for any unusual transactions, such as duplicate payments, and payroll analytics is looking for any unusual payroll activity, such as an unusual amount of paychecks in a given time period, or an unreasonable amount of overtime or excessive pay, or other indicators of fraudulent activity. The third goal was to expand automation of office procedures. We had already automated our contractor background check process, and we wanted to look for ways that we could automate other office procedures in an effort to improve efficiency. We were able to automate our standard letters by creating templates and programming them into our case management system, which allows letters to be automatically generated by pulling case information from the system. This allows staff to reduce time spent on administrative tasks while still maintaining the same level of consideration and analysis. Keeping with the theme of promoting efficiency, we really focused the first half on ways to make our agency more effective by establishing and fine-tuning processes and developing and determining the best procedures for all of our functions to ensure we're operating as efficiently as possible while still delivering the highest quality work product. Even though it wasn't a stated goal, it really was the theme of the first half of this year and continues to be the theme for 2022. Our agency received 86 whistleblower complaints in the first half of the year. This is on the higher end of normal, which since 2016 has ranged from 39 to 88 new complaints and a half, which could be the result of the passage of the new whistleblower legislation that was passed during the half. In addition, at the beginning of the year, we started off with a little over 60 open complaints that had been received prior to my term. So in addition to the 86 new complaints, we also had those to work through. When we receive a new complaint, we triage the complaint to determine whether we have jurisdiction, and if so, whether we would be the most appropriate entity to investigate the allegations, or if it is something that is more appropriately handled by HR or management. The pie chart shows the disposition of the complaints closed first half, which includes the 86 new complaints plus the 60 or so inherited complaints. We initiated 43 investigations from those complaints, which is 29% of the total complaints closed. Two things of note. The first is our increased use of what we call management inquiries, which is when we require management to respond to a specific allegation and, if appropriate, to cite to any corrective action. This ensures that the matter is handled and differs from just a straight management referral, which is where we refer a matter to management without requiring follow-up with our agency. Another notable item, which has definitely been a huge process improvement, is that there were no complaints left in the open status. For the last 6 reporting periods, an average of approximately 25% of the complaints remained open. Now, we work hard to ensure we triage complaints as we receive them, to keep the number of open complaints at or near 0, to ensure the matters get into the correct hands as soon as possible. I am very thrilled to report that we closed 52 investigations in the first half, which far surpasses the agency's half-year average of 23 closed investigations. However, even though I am very proud of that accomplishment, it became apparent that the number of investigations closed in a half does not give the full story on how we are operating. In our effort to increase transparency and accountability throughout county government, we included a transparency and accountability section in the report, which we intend to include moving forward, that includes information about how long it took us to close our investigations and the number and age of investigations that remain open, so that we can be sure to provide a clear picture of how we are doing. As you can see from the slide, there is definitely room for improvement. It took us an average of 671 days to complete those 52 investigations, with the median being 352 days. 39 investigations remained open as of the last day of the half, with an average age of 618 days and a median age of 261 days, which tells us that we will also have high numbers reflected for the second half of 2022, since we were already going in with high numbers. The days are calculated from the date we receive the complaint until the date the report of investigation is signed, so that we are measuring how well we are doing in all the stages, from triaging the complaint to conducting the investigation, and then writing and finalizing the report. And of course, our top priority is doing quality work and not just doing things quickly. However, investigations are typically most useful if they are timely, and they do lose value over time. So this is something we are working on improving, and we have made a lot of progress. An essential part of what we do in supporting and maintaining a culture of ethical behavior is to help guide our employees and elected officials before they act to make sure their actions will align with the county ethics code. To this end, county employees and officials are encouraged to reach out to our agency with any specific questions they have, and we will provide an opinion to determine whether their intended conduct would be permissible under the ethics code. During the first half of the year, we issued 52 ethics advisory opinions. The slide contains a chart of the various topics of those advisory opinions, with issues surrounding conflicts of interest being the most frequently asked. We also receive a lot of questions about gifts. Employees are required to disclose to our agency anytime they have secondary employment, a relative working for the county, and any business interests that are involved with the county. During the first half, we reviewed and issued opinions on 143 secondary employment disclosures, and we reviewed 20 nepotism and conflict of interest statements. As stated before, the county code requires that all contractors doing more than $10,000 in business with the county must register with our agency unless there is an applicable exemption. In addition, all lobbyists are required to register with our agency. Registration for both groups is a 3-step process. They must complete a registration form, pay a $100 registration fee, which supports our operations related to contractor registration, and they must complete ethics training. Lobbyists are additionally required to make annual disclosures to our agency. During the first half of 2022, we registered 157 contractors, which makes for a total of 1,759 contractors as of June 30th that were registered with our agency. We currently have 16 registered lobbyists. As part of the contractor registration process, we perform a comprehensive background check on the contractor and its principals to ensure we are only contracting with upright vendors. During the background checks performed during the first half, we identified $592,000 in outstanding county property taxes and state and federal tax liens. When we identify outstanding tax liens, we notify the contractor and require that they either provide proof of satisfaction of the tax lien or provide proof that they are on a payment plan. The Agency of Inspector General administers the county's debarment law in accordance with County Code Chapter 505, which establishes a procedure for our agency to debar contractors who meet certain criteria related to poor business practices or unethical behavior. Depending on the reason for debarment, we may debar a contractor for either 18 months, 3 years, or 5 years. During a period of debarment, a contractor may not enter into any contract or agreement with the county, submit proposals or bids, or act as a subcontractor on any county contract. During the first half, we worked through and completed 60 debarment matters in our continued effort to work through our older cases. We ended up debarring 9 contractors. 7 of those contractors received 3-year debarments, and 2 received 5-year debarments. The 3-year debarments were a result of our work with the Fishbowl Project, which is a collaborative effort among several agencies to increase delinquent county property tax collection, where we play a small part as it relates to the commercial entities with delinquent county property taxes. 7 of those entities were debarred, although it's also important to mention that our work with the Fishbowl assisted in the collection of a little bit over $1.5 million in delinquent county property taxes from those contractors we did not debar. We debarred 2 contractors and their principals as a result of the principal's convictions for bribing an ex-City of Cleveland employee. Because they are local contractors convicted of bribery, we wanted to ensure they did not have the opportunity to do business with the county. 4 debarments rolled off the debarment list during the half, and there are now a total of 27 contractors currently debarred. The pie chart reflects when those 27 contractors will roll off the debarment list.
Can I ask a question? Is that okay on debarment?
Yes.
So luckily nobody wanted to appeal to have a hearing, right?
Well, so, right. There was a situation where after we sent a notice of potential debarment, they did contest it, and I otherwise would have we probably still would have debarred that contractor. However, we have not made a determination on that until the review board is in place.
Mr. Chair, we have to reconstitute the board, and I know there's one applicant that has applied to be appointed, who's a administrative judge. You need to have a judge and an attorney. I'm on the board, but we have to constitute this immediately. So whatever I need to do.
Okay.
Help?
I just need to get on this. This should have been done because as soon as somebody requests a hearing, we need to be ready. And we have rules in place. We spent a year with Judge McMonigal on establishing all the rules, the procedures. It's all there. We just need bodies. We need lawyers. So
Who's the appointed authority?
executive.
Because it's fallen under this particular subject matter, I'll be more than happy to see if I can advance it. At least call the question and get something done before the end of the year or sooner.
Thank you very much.
Twice a year, our agency reviews the State of Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles driving records for employees who operate a county-owned vehicle or who drive their own personal vehicle in the course of their county employment. The goal is to ensure that the county is not placed at risk by employees driving without a valid license. During the driver's license review for the first half, we reviewed the state driving records of the 2,117 employees who operated a county-owned vehicle or who drove their own personal vehicle for county purposes. We identified 15 potential violations due to 7 of those employees having a suspended license and 7 having an expired license, in addition to 1 employee with a hit-and-run conviction. We then reached out to those employees' supervisors to advise them of the issues and to see if the employees actually drove during the time when their license was invalid. The pie chart reflects the information we received from management, which is that 7 of those employees did not drive for the county while they had an invalid license, and so there was no issue. 1 employee no longer works for the county. 1 employee was suspended. One has a pending court case, and so any administrative action will not be taken until the resolution of that case. And the HR review is still in process for 5 of those employees.
On that point, just, your job is just to identify it, and it's HR's job to determine if there's any penalty involved.
Correct. Yes. And with that, I'm done with what I prepared, but I am here for any questions if you have any questions.
I'm going to open up very briefly, because there's a viewing audience out there. Can you tell me what the charter says the Inspector General's office is supposed to do in a pretty broad sense?
So the Inspector General's job is to serve as the county's chief ethics officer, and the Agency of Inspector General is charged with enforcing the county ethics code for investigating fraud, waste, and abuse. In addition, we also have responsibilities as it relates to county contractors.
Thank you. All the things you said, but I just wanted to give for the folks that are.
I should have started with that. Thank you.
Only do it twice a year, so I just want to keep reminding them. Any questions? Yeah. Councilman Miller.
First, I was very encouraged by the report on the number of whistleblower complaints, and I hope that the legislation does encourage people who have information to come forward. And the question is what impacts, if any, the coming of a new administration has on the impact on the operations of your office?
So to be honest, not many. Thankfully, our terms are staggered, which was intentional. And I expect, if anything, there to be an increase in ethics inquiries, just as the new administration is figuring out what is and what is not allowed under the county ethics code. But other than that, because we are independent, there really has not been much impact.
I was thinking more in terms of the need to orient new people coming in about ethics requirements.
Yes, there is definitely that. We recently put together the ethics training. However, I do intend to meet with the new administration to just provide some overarching requirements that the county has related to the ethics code, just to make sure that everyone is aware of the rules. Because what is sometimes okay in private employment is not always the case in public employment.
So just a comment that I keep saying that the new government structure does not ensure that there aren't going to be ethical violations, but we have a number of systems in place, including your office, the internal audit, the county council oversight, the prosecutor's office, and together, hopefully, these operations ensure that if there are problems, that they're going to be discovered quickly and dealt with effectively, and that these actions are going to create a positive environment that encourages people to be mindful of ethical concerns.
Absolutely.
I just have a couple questions on your presentation. They're
Okay.
just simple ones. I think your first slide is develop conflict of interest. That's one of your 3 focal points.
Yes.
I think I remember you saying you're looking for excessive paychecks and then overtime. When I see conflict of interest, I think of something else. Is there more to that?
So the excessive overtime or excessive pay, that would be a part of our employee payroll analytics. The conflict of interest monitoring has to deal with us comparing the contractor spending with employees' information to make sure that there is not an employee that is also acting as perhaps a contractor or receiving payment from the county for an improper purpose.
So that's where the payment.
Yeah, so those are two of the separate programs within the data analytics program.
And the other conflict of interest would be through your normal communication, through other people sharing thoughts with you of what could be happening. That would be conflict of interest. That's the other way you can begin to look at something.
Yeah, so if there is an employee that has a conflict of interest or a potential conflict of interest, then they are required to disclose that either in an open meeting or to our agency. So we just want to make sure that there are not any undisclosed relationships that an employee might have with the county, or certainly no unlawful relationships that an employee might have with the county. So that's what we are looking for there.
Perfect. Two more. Just with the registered contractors. You
Yes.
mentioned 772 or something, but you mentioned it gets it up to 1,759.
Yes.
Are any falling off?
So when a contractor registers with our agency, their registration expires 4 years from that December 31st, from the December 31st of that year. So contractors registering at any point this year, their contractor registration will expire on December 31st, 2026.
I'm just thinking the list gets scrubbed automatically because it's a 4-year cycle.
Yes. But we do start performing outreach to those contractors whose contractor registrations will be expiring in December. So we will be emailing the contractors to remind them that their registration is expiring so that they can renew if they're still doing business with the county or wanting to do business with the county.
My last one is, how is a disbarment initiated?
So it depends on what it's stemming from. So our work with the fishbowl, the goal there is to increase delinquent county property tax collection. So there we work with the fishbowl to identify entities or commercial properties where we might be of assistance. And we perform initial outreach to say, okay, you have this amount of delinquent property taxes. Unless you become current or get on a county or on a payment plan, then we will initiate debarment proceedings against you. And those are how those begin. Also, during our contractor background checks that we perform when a contractor registers with our agency, if we discover any negative information through those background checks, we might use that as a reason to initiate debarment proceedings. And then the other way is if we receive negative information just from the public or just from what's happening around us, that we might determine to initiate proceedings against a contractor. A lot of times, though, when it is something that can be cured, instead of just sending them a notice of potential debarment, we'll send them warning letters to try to get them to comply before we would even initiate the debarment proceedings and send the notice of potential debarment.
Thank you very much. That ends my questions that I have written down.
Okay.
Two thoughts of, first, thank you. When you first got sworn in, as soon as you got appointed interim, you said you're going to take where the previous Inspector General came and continue building on that. And then you became the sworn-in Inspector General, and I just see what you set out to do is being accomplished. And it's humbling to have you say, we still have work to do. And I look forward to working with you on this. And number two is what Councilman Miller brought up was the new administration coming in as an independent entity. I think I got that word right. The sooner than later to be able to say, this is the second. I mean, if you want to, I'm not suggesting anything other than a suggestion that it's a good entree saying this is your first half of 2022, and this is what I'm recommending that we hit the ground running, or even beforehand, or whenever you deem it appropriate, to get the ethics understood in front of them as soon as we possibly can. I don't know if we can do it beforehand or not. I know there's a transition team. It'll be their call working with you, but I think it's imperative to not have that be lost in the shuffle is probably the wrong way to describe it, but I know January 1, 2, or 3, whenever it starts, it's going to be a whirlwind, and I'd like to have this in place.
Okay. Thank you for that. It absolutely does.
And just thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for your time.
Other questions? There are no further questions. Enjoy your holidays.
All right, you as well. Thank you.
And just in the miscellaneous portion of it, Councilwoman, just please fill me in a little bit more with the Inspector General on what we need to do to get this thing. And you don't normally get elevated on something, but this one, you're like, this needs to be done. And if I could add some value, and let me try to get that, because it seems very important, and we don't want to get caught in a pickle, sounds like. Okay. With all that being said, it's adjourned.
Yeah.
Thank you.